What's up, everybody? It's Luke James, not the singer. If you're looking to get your music reviewed, you can hit up this email that's right here, and you are tuned in to my worst of 2019 list. I only did 10 projects this year, but based on how the year went, I probably could have done a good 20 to 30, but these are the 10 albums that I thought were just really, really awful. And before I do get into it, I just need to remind you, you don't gotta take this as a personal attack on you or your music tastes. This is just my opinion, the 10 albums that I thought were the worst, and who knows, once my best list comes out, you might have some of those albums on your worst list. So we all have different opinions. I'm not hating on these people for being successful, making music, and doing their thing in 2019. I just thought these albums were bad, so I wanted to start off this review by saying that. And now we're going to start off the top 10 list, or the worst 10 list, with number 10, and that is DJ Khaled's father of Asahd. Once again, DJ Khaled showcased his ability to get together some of the biggest names in hip-hop and still put out a completely forgettable album that just has no chemistry or anything memorable about it. Musically and sonically, this shit is just so bland, it's very uninventive. Just imagine having all the access that he has and not being able to make a truly great album. It's actually kind of mind-boggling to me, but here we are, and I'm sure he's going to do it again in 2020 or 2021, or both, because that just seems to be what he does every year. And at number 9, we have Kanye West with Jesus is King, and I never thought, as bad as Kanye's music has been to me in recent years, that he would wind up this far down on my worst list. I haven't been a big fan of Kanye for quite a while as far as his music goes, but this album right here to me, everything about it just felt lazy, forced, and rushed. A Kidz Bop gospel album would probably have deeper lyrics than this shit right here. There wasn't really anything on it that I thought was profound. So I'm not even just hating on the religious aspect, because that's nothing new in hip-hop. I mean, a lot of rappers have been rapping about how they feel about God, heaven and hell, and all these sorts of things. This to me just felt like an awkward, forced cash grab, especially when you look at everything else that he has going on, including working with Joel Osteen, whatever his name is, and some of these other evangelists. That is a whole other thing. But even if you want to put that aside, sonically, I think this is one of Kanye's worst albums. I would probably say it is his worst album. Yeah, really nothing good going on with that one. Now at number 8, we have Logic with Supermarket, and for whatever reason, Logic decided to bring punk and rock elements into his music, which resulted in a bunch of very stale instrumentals. The singing vocals on this weren't good, you had cringy lyrics, everything about this is a mess, especially when you hear him doing some pretty bad impersonations of some of the rock bands out there. In particular, there's that Lemon Drop song where he's doing an impersonation of Red Hot Chili Peppers, and it's really just awkward. And when I reviewed this, man, everybody was calling me out and saying, man, it's just a soundtrack, you're being too hard on it. It's just a soundtrack, which very clearly lets me know that you did not come up on classic soundtracks like those Nutty Professor joints or Bad Boys or even Gridlocked. You know what I mean? Don't Be a Menace. There were so many great soundtracks. So that's not an excuse, man. Musically, this shit to me was not very good. And while we're at it, his other album, Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, that was bad too. So Logic was double dipping in the vat of dumpster juice in 2019. Now at number 7, we have Tyga with his album Legendary. Just another Tyga album. I don't have to say more than that. You probably didn't even know it came out. And at number 6, we have Nav, who once again is just droning over hazy production with the energy of that sloth from Zootopia. The only difference is that scene with the sloth from Zootopia is actually hilarious, whereas there is very little entertainment value with this Nav album. You might be able to argue that some of the beats are decent. He does make those hazy bangers. I can give credit for that. But all in all, man, after all these years, there just still is nothing interesting about Nav. He doesn't stick out in any way, and if he does, it's in a very bad way, man. He's so bland and boring, doesn't have anything compelling to say, and at this point I think his tracks would be better as instrumentals. That is how I feel about Nav. Coming in at the halfway mark at number 5 is Gunna with Drip or Drown 2, and this is just the epitome of uninventive, uncreative, boring, generic, cookie cutter auto-croon rap, man. This shit is so boring. He does absolutely nothing to set himself apart from the 75 billion other artists out there who are taking part in this subgenre. The flows and vocals on this thing are drier than a 99-year-old woman's crotch covered in baby powder. This shit is not good. Unless, that last line for some reason excites you, then maybe you'll like this. I'm not going to judge you for what you're into, but god damn it, this shit is so dull and boring. It was an extra long project. I remember being a couple tracks into this, and I just felt like I was being tortured, and it was still going on, man. It was like electric clamps on my damn nipples, so there really wasn't anything about this I liked very clearly. Then again, maybe the electric clamps thing kind of excites you too. I don't know, but I'm just, speaking from my point of view. We're going to move on from all that shit to number 4 with Chance the Rapper, who dropped The Big Day. I've never been a big Chance fan, but leading up to this, I kind of thought that maybe he changed my mind because it's been a long time coming. It was this big event, but oh no, this shit was not good. This whole thing was a mixed bag, and not a good mixed bag. Like when you get those little cheese crackers in there, you know, you get some pretzels in there, you get some Doritos and Ringolos and all that. Not one of those good mixed bags. I'm talking about a mixed bags where you reach in and it's a bunch of like shit and razor blades and screws, so your hand is just getting ripped up and stabbed and torn open and shit is getting in the wounds, you're getting an infection. That is how bad that this mixed bag is, this Chance the Rapper album. It is not a good one at all. The production sucked throughout much of this album. There really weren't a lot of great beats, and Chance was coming through with some of his worst performances I've ever heard, man. Cringy ass bars all over this thing. The way he's throwing his vocals on some of these tracks is just so cringy and cheesy. Really a bad effort from Chance the Rapper. Certainly did not change how I feel about him. And now we're into the bottom three, starting with Lil Pump's Harvard Dropout. This shit is just so dumb and ignorant, and not in the fun and entertaining way, like if you're watching a Flavor of Love marathon. There's absolutely no real like interesting personality or charisma or energy on this compared to what he did in the past. I've never been a big Lil Pump fan, but at the start I could kind of understand the appeal of him, just this young guy who didn't give a fuck, coming out here doing his thing, not caring about old heads and all that. But on this one it really just feels tired. It kind of feels like they wanted to do the same thing, but they did it even worse. Man, just this shit was boring to me as hell. But hey, he must be doing something right, because he's doing the bare minimum to make it as a rapper, and people are still listening to him. But I could do a whole other video on how that goes in the hip-hop game. But there you have it. That's at number 3. And at the number 2 spot, we have Vic Mensa and 93 Punx. Things have just been really weird with Vic Mensa over the past year or so, especially when he started dressing up like an extra out of The Class of Nukem High. Very classic movie. If you've never seen that, I highly recommend it if you want to see some really weird and wacky shit. And this album here is some weird and wacky shit, but not in the charming way. A lot of this is that punk rap infusion that he's going for. Some of the instrumentals sound like some of that cheesy, watered down punk music that we got in the early 2000s. I think I said in my review that some of his shit reminded me of like Avril Lavigne and Sum 41, although they are Canadian goats, so you know, I shouldn't be hating on them, but I'm just saying Vic Mensa's take on trying to make this shit was really awkward in my opinion. Just a very poorly done album where everything seems forced, from the production to the lyrics, which are incredibly cringeworthy throughout it. And you know what? It's okay to try new things once in a while. I understand that, but sometimes it doesn't always work out. Like when my dad took me skiing and I got caught in a rope tow, so he threw me down the damn hill so that I didn't get everyone else tripping all over me when I was caught up in the rope tow. So memories, man. I'm scarred for life from that shit. I will never get on a ski hill again, and I'm wondering if Vic Mensa is ever going to make a punk album like this again. Probably will. Who knows? He might even change his shit up again. He might be doing like some Goku Dolls type of shit. If you ever seen that show on Netflix, that anime, the shit's pretty funny. He might be just changing his whole thing up. He might come out in a goddamn Sailor Moon outfit singing J-pop or K-pop songs for all I know. He's just out there messing around. But we are now down to the number 1 spot, and that is Hobo Johnson, The Fall of Hobo Johnson. I just can't believe people listen to this shit unironically. Like, could you imagine getting in a car and someone saying, "Hey man, turn that Hobo Johnson up"? That shit actually legitimately makes me laugh. This album is so damn bad. Usually with albums I don't like, I can find a couple of things that I do like. Like within this list, once in a while there might be a decent verse or a decent beat or something like that. But this album right here is so goddamn bad, man. This really might be the worst release that I've heard from an established artist in all the years that I've been reviewing music. If you asked me to put together a list of the worst albums of the decade, this would certainly be in the running. It probably would be very high at the top or the bottom, if you want to put it that way, like within the top 3, bottom 3, however you want to call it. Just the production on this is lackluster. The songwriting is just, beyond cringeworthy. Like some of the shit that he is saying on here will make the hair on the back of your neck stand up, man. You'll get goose pimples. You'll be getting those douche chills, man. You'll be feeling so uncomfortable listening to this. He sounds like sobby slam poetry, the way that he's rapping. One minute he's whispering, then he's yelling like a teenager who didn't get their way. Really brutal album. I would honestly rather rub my nutsack up and down a cheese grater than listen to this shit again. This is boring, annoying, awful. I would rather be subjected to 100 Live Jasmine pop-ups when I'm trying to jack off than listen to this shit. And you know how damn annoying that is. So there you go. My number 1 worst of the year. We all have different tastes. I just think this shit is fucking beyond Garbaggio. Super thick and frothy dumpster juice with rat corpses in it. Maybe we get some like bloody floss from someone who hadn't brushed their teeth in a while, flossing for the first time. They threw that in there in that vat of dumpster juice. Then they had, a goldfish they didn't look after for a while, so they took its corpse. It was floating. They put it in there. It's floating upside down in his fishbowl, picked it up, threw it in the vat of dumpster juice. Just whatever they could put in. Toenail clippings, used condoms. It's just not a good album. There you have it. Worst of the year. Thanks for watching. See you next year.